What's up, Conference USA fans? Welcome into another episode of CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. I'm Josh Yonis, serving as your host again today. We're getting to the last few episodes of our CUSA Insider football preview series here. Today, we'll be talking about the New Mexico State Aggies, joined by a very special guest, MJ Newsom, the brand new voice of the Aggies. Just a few weeks onto the job. MJ, thank you so much for joining us.
Josh, thanks so much for having me, man. I appreciate it.
So yeah, not even a month on the job. What's your journey, to Las Cruces, to New Mexico State? Just give us a little bit about your background and what really drew you there to be the voice of the Aggies.
Yeah, sure. So I grew up in Birmingham, Alabama. And one of the great things about growing up in Birmingham, Alabama is you live in a state where college athletics is the peak. There's no professional sports there. You got your minor league baseball, you had a G League basketball team, but for the most part, it's Alabama, it's Auburn. You have two big institutions in the state. You love one, you don't like the other. And so I really grew a big passion for college athletics at an early age. And I think growing up as well, I always had an affinity for the work of sports broadcasters. It mainly got me in front of the TV, by being a college sports fan and watching College Game Day, listening to broadcasters, going to Alabama games as a young kid, listening to Eli Gold on the radio. I had our radio in one year, watching the game at Bryant-Denny Stadium out of my eyes. And so I really grew a passion for sports broadcasting and got a chance to do that in high school. And then it really drew me to want to spread my wings and try something new. So I went to USC, studied there for 4 years as a journalism major, got to do a lot of great things with our student radio station, KXSC. I graduated in May of 2025, spent my first year out of school in LA working at Pomona Pitzer, a Division III program, got to do all of their athletics, which is an amazing opportunity and a great athletic department with great people. And then very, very fortunate that I had a chance to get my hands on this job. And, going back to my college athletics background, living in Birmingham, Alabama, New Mexico is also a state where you have two big institutions. You love one, you don't like the other. And so I really resonate with the fact that the fan base here just loves college athletics and loves the Aggies.
For sure, for sure. Well, what have you learned just in your little time there? Just kind of, I'm sure you've been a sponge, just absorbing everything in the department in the Las Cruces area. But what have you learned about this team, this program, just in these first few weeks? That I mean, you certainly had an outsider perspective, being someone from Alabama, being out in California. But what have you picked up on in this early going?
It's been a really, busy couple of weeks, like you said, just being a sponge, trying to learn as much as possible. But I think what I've learned about the football program in general is there's a lot of positivity toward it. Things feel like they're really trending up in the right direction. There was a huge boost in our NIL rev share this offseason. Huge credit to our athletic director, Joe Fields, and his staff. They've done an amazing job getting things going after they all got hired back in October. But it really feels like this team has a lot of life in it. There's a lot of optimism, a lot of positivity surrounding this team, a lot of new good acquisitions, a lot of good returners. So I think there's a lot of positivity and good expectations toward this season.
Yeah, you brought it up there. The investment in the program, year three under Tony Sanchez, really kind of seeing his imprint on this program. A lot of kind of faith from the administration led by Joe Fields. I've seen kind of over the summer, or I guess really back in the spring, some pledges to do some big stadium renovations, some investment from the state. So you're kind of seeing it all over the place. I know Tony also talked about it at Media Day about being in the fight with Rev Share was kind of his wording. And but how have you seen just that investment across the board, and where does it kind of tell you about how where the university thinks this program can go?
Again, just a huge shout out to Joe Fields, our new athletic director. He's done an amazing job coming in, really with a great vision for what college athletics is going to be. I mean, he's a young guy, he's hungry, he's really excited to be here. But like you mentioned too with Coach Sanchez, I mean, he's a New Mexico State grad. He played here. He loves Las Cruces. He loves New Mexico State. And I think, like you mentioned, men's stadium renovations coming this season. You're going to get some new LED boards down on the field level. I'm really excited. Next year, a new press box is coming in. So, of course, that's going to be great for me, which I'm really pumped for. But you can just really see the investment and the dedication that the administration and the coaching staff have to make this place great. New Mexico State now has a brand new football locker room they just put in, I believe, last year. It's really state-of-the-art, brand spanking new, super nice. And so you can just tell that the administration, the coaches want this to be a place that recruits want to come and play and spend more than just a year.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, let's get to some on the field stuff. Let's talk about the Aggies going into this 2026 season. Coach Sanchez made the decision pretty early on to commit to Trey Hedden as QB1 for this season. Comes in after 2 years as a starter at Furman. What have you seen from him so far in camp that really supports why Coach Sanchez, was willing to commit to him from such an early standpoint in camp?
Trey is a super high energy guy. I've gotten to spend a little bit of time around him. I had him on our first coaches show last week. I got to talk to him at one of our football events last Friday. He's a very high energy kid. He's a very confident person, which I think is going to be really huge for his transition from the FCS level to the FBS level. And Trey's talked about it. He's like, look, I've played 2 full seasons of college football as a starter at Furman. I've made every mistake. I've seen everything. I feel like I belong here. He's addressed I don't know if you've seen that Athlon Sports ranked him 138 out of 138 of presumptive FBS starters. And Trey's like, look, in some ways I don't like it. In some ways I do like it. It's good bulletin board material. He's a really confident guy. And I think from what Coach Sanchez and the coaching staff see in him is they see that confidence. They see the intelligence. They like the experience that he has. But also Coach Sanchez talked about how they valued, or I should say evaluated the quarterbacks on drive consistency. They said that Trey was the best when playing football, and that was ultimately the decision that they made to go with Trey as a starter.
He gets a chance to work with offensive coordinator David Yost, who we know just from his coaching pedigree, has a lot of experience working and developing great quarterbacks. What kind of potential do you see with the two of them working together? Or have you already kind of seen in camp? And then, what do you expect, Coach Yost to really bring out of Trey as he goes into this next chapter of his college career?
You mentioned Coach Yost and his background. He's got an unbelievable background with some of the quarterbacks he's worked with. You go all the way back to the late 2000s with Blaine Gabbert at Missouri. He's worked with Justin Herbert at Oregon, Jordan Love at Utah State. I mean, that's 3 NFL quarterbacks right there. One thing that I think he's really going to help Trey with, that Trey talked to us on our coaches show last week about, is calming down. I think Trey addressed that, hey, sometimes I got a little bit trigger happy at Furman. He said the touchdowns were good, the yards were good, the interceptions weren't great. I think you could see that last year: 17 touchdowns, 13 interceptions. I believe it was 30 touchdowns, 22 picks over his 2 years as a starter. And he believes that Coach Yost has helped him calm down a little bit, see the field more, and make smarter decisions. And I think that's really going to help Trey elevate his game because, like I mentioned, Trey's a confident guy. He's got all the talent in the world, great arm talent, great size. I think when the decision making gets better, you're going to see him rocket up.
When you talk about staying calm in games, I look back at the 2025 season for the Aggies, 4 1-possession games. We talk from the league office just about the competitiveness in this league, the amount of one-score games, especially as we get into weekday CUSA. Certainly something that will present itself again in 2026. How do you have you seen some different approaches from the coaching staff to kind of help close the gap on finishing games and flipping those one-score games?
I think it's obviously a little bit hard to see that in the preseason. Like, you don't really know what this team is going to be capable of until they put on the pads, strap up the helmets, and go play Florida State this weekend, right? You got to see them play another team. But I think what you can see is going back to what we talked about with talent acquisition. I think there has been a whole retool in the run game. You went and got 2 really good transfer running backs, and James Jones from Delaware State. TJ Washington's coming from Iowa. Of course, you keep Dijon Stanley. Isaiah Rudison's another big name. You got a brand new offensive line. Tyler Keineth is going to be our starting right guard. He started all 12 games in 2024 for Boise State with Ashton Genty. I mean, that's the experience you need right there to retool the run game. And then you look at the defensive side, a lot of new guys as well, in addition to guys coming back. So I think in terms of bridging the gap between those one-score games, it's about getting the right people in the building, and I believe New Mexico State has those people this year.
Yeah, let's talk about a little bit more of the personnel, some of the tools around Trey Hedden on that offense. You brought up the running back position, obviously something that's been very important to Coach Sanchez and the success of this offense for a few years now, and really even going back to the Jerry Kill era as well. And you bring up names like Star Thomas, Mike Washington Jr., which when you talk about Ashton Genty, he just had a huge door open for him potentially with Genty maybe missing a first couple games of the season for the Raiders. But anyway, a huge pedigree of talented running backs that have come through this program. James Jones really seems positioned to be one of the next big ones to star for the Aggies. What kind of skill set do you really see him bringing to this offense, and maybe a couple other names that you think we need to have on our radar?
James Jones is going to be a monster this year. I mean, if you look at his stats from last year at Delaware State, he was, I think, 958 yards, so just shy of 1,000, but he ran for like 9.8 a carry. This dude can go. He came out of the portal, I want to say a 3-star guy, had P4 offers, but he had a chance to go play some more big, but opted to come here, which we're really excited about because he's a really good player. And Coach Sanchez talked to me and talked to the media about that he believes that James is going to be one of the best backs that New Mexico State has had since he's been here. Obviously, it's been a shorter tenure for Coach Sanchez, though, as the head coach. But like you mentioned, saw some guys like Mike Washington, Star Thomas, guys who went on to play in the SEC after their time in New Mexico State. And Coach Sanchez believes James Jones can be that guy. You look at James Jones's progression through his career. Of course, he's bounced around from schools, but one thing you kind of miss is when he was at Louisiana Monroe, he didn't get a whole lot of carries because he played behind Ahmad Hardy, who's now at Missouri. Looking more deeply at that running back room, Coach Sanchez really believes that it's going to be a 3-back rotation. He called him a 3-headed monster last week on our coaches show between Jones, Stanley, and Washington. I think we're really excited to see what TJ Washington can bring to the table, too. He played in a very run-heavy offense at Iowa for 3 years before coming here. Dijon Stanley, of course, was here last year, a couple years at Utah before. I think you're going to see him use in those third-down situations to go out and be a receiver as well.
Let's go to the receiver room as well. Bringing back a few key returners. Obviously, TK King. You got a couple others in Brody Malone Bradford, another big-bodied receiver that can help help Trey Hidden in that offense. How important is it having some experienced targets there to help him out, and then maybe who else you see becoming some household names there?
I think when we look at the offense, we've been talking so far, you and I, just about all the new names, but there's a lot of returners and consistent names that this receiver group has that I think is going to be super important. I think as a receiver room, you could see 7 different guys used each game. You can go very far down the depth chart, and that's one thing that Coach Sanchez believes. He's got a lot of depth at that position. You mentioned TK King, one of the most electric players, not just in Conference USA, but in potentially the country. I see him a lot as sort of like a Zachariah Branch type beat. He's a smaller guy, really shifty, really quick, and get the deep ball, get the slant, and turn it up for yards after the catch. You mentioned Brody Malone Bradford had a really big year as a freshman last year. Tallest guy in a room at 6'5". He could have a big year. A guy that I think people have not had a chance to meet yet because he was injured last year, but also came from a Division III school, is AJ Williams. Really tall guy, going to be wearing number 11 this year, stands 6'4". He's really impressed me in camp. He's going to be one of our starters this year. I think he could have a really good year, especially, too, when you get down toward the goal line. You have him and Brody Malone Bradford in. That's going to be special. Another transfer name that I'm excited about is Miles Libman from Stanford. Didn't get a whole lot of playing time at Stanford, had his most consistent work last year, but he comes in as a guy who I think could really make a difference.
All right, and then let's slide over to the defensive side of the ball. Last year, a lot of playmaking on the defensive side, 24 turnovers, tied for 14th nationally. Bringing back a couple guys, I'm sure there's plenty of new faces on the defensive side as well. But do you think you expect the same kind of havoc to be created on the defensive side? And let's get into some of the newcomers and names we need to know on that side of the ball.
The defense could be really good again. I think this is a really special group. I think unlike the offense, the defense has a lot of veterans back. You look at guys like Sone Apiyu, Henry Davis, Gabe Peterson, Torrey Gathers, Nick Session. That's just to name a few. Those are all returning guys who have started games, played a lot of minutes. For this defense, they know what's expected. JoJo Charles, another guy in the secondary. You talk about the turnovers, had a pick last year himself. I think this is a team that really starts up front. You have a lot of experience up front with guys I mentioned, just like Gabe Peterson, Henry Davis. You get Kyan Roberts-Dayan from UTSA, who Coach Sanchez has called a chess piece. Could use him on a lot of different places. Brad Vislasel on the outside as well. I think the defensive front has a really good opportunity to begin things in the line of scrimmage. That's where the ball is snapped. That's where the play begins. If the defensive line can do its job, of course, the linebackers there as well. I mentioned Tony and Sone as well. Then it comes into the secondary. Mentioned JoJo Charles just a second ago. DeMarcus Peters is another guy who Coach Sanchez has been very high on. Transfer from Texas A&M Kingsville. He's going to be the starting corner opposite of JoJo. So I think this team could be really solid. Mentioned Nick Session at safety. There's a lot of names that I could keep rattling off, but to answer your question, long story short, I think this defense could have another really big year.
All right. Let's get into this week's game, week 0. Excited to have football back, giving us a perfect little appetizer with this game against Florida State, as well as Jack State taking on North Dakota State this weekend. But a pretty unique way to start your time in New Mexico State. First time calling a game is at, Billy Bowden Field or Bobby Bowden Field at Doak Campbell Stadium. What's the atmosphere like around the program as you're preparing for a game of this magnitude on that stage?
Yeah, I mean, how awesome is this, right? First game I get to call at the FBS level, at the D1 level is at Doak Campbell Stadium. I've always been, a college football fan, like I mentioned earlier, always wanted to go to a game there, but now I'm like, man, I get to broadcast a game there. That's pretty awesome. But I think, you talk about the opportunity that New Mexico State gets week 0 to go in and take on a really quality opponent. I think it's a really good opportunity to learn what you're made of. We talked to Coach Sanchez last night, talked to Henry Davis on the coaches show, and Henry said, "Look, it's going to start in the trenches." Of course, he's a defensive lineman; that's his mo. But it's going to start up front. Florida State's got a fantastic run game. Usk McCroman and Contravian Wiser are two really good backs. They have Samuel Singleton as well. They've got some good receivers as well. This is getting an offense I think that can really blossom this year. A good offense last year. So it's really going to be a test of, hey, what are you made of? I think defensively, like we just talked about, you're going to find out, hey, can New Mexico State hang with the rest of them when you take on those two talented backs and all ACC receiver and Deuce Robinson a year ago. Then you look at the defensive side of Florida State. Sure, it's a little bit younger, but also a really good unit. Hey, can this retooled offense for New Mexico State come out and make some noise? So it's going to be a great opportunity to go, take on a team that, you look across the board, they're going to have higher stars than you. You're going to play in a bigger atmosphere than you play in and week out. It's going to be a real challenge to adapt to that environment and just continue to play ID football.
With an opportunity like that, what are you hoping to learn or hoping the team can learn about itself, going toe to toe with a team like Florida State?
It's going to be a test, right? I think you just mentioned it. You're going to play against some guys that had higher ratings than you, might be bigger than you, might be stronger, more athletic. And how do you respond to that? How do you manage that type of atmosphere, that type of, challenge? I think if you're able to go in there and be competitive, that's the most important thing. That'll tell me a lot about how this team is going to fare the rest of the way. I don't want it to, stray too far away from the question, but you look beyond just to the non-conference schedule. It's a really tough non-conference slate for the Aggies this year. I mean, you go to Florida State, you open at home against Mercyhurst, then you have two really quality G6 opponents in Hawaii on the road. And then you host New Mexico, which was a 9-3 team under Jason Eck last year. And so it's a really tough gauntlet you got to go through. And I think the tone begins. Can you set that tone at Florida State? Do you have to come out with a win? Maybe not. But can you show the rest of the country, the rest of the conference that, hey, we're here to compete this season?
What kind of question marks do you think could be checked, or things you could see answered in that game that could have you coming away thinking, this team can be a bowl team, maybe even a CUSA contender?
The biggest question coming into this year is, can we run the football? I mean, I think you saw last year that was a real struggle. Going back to what we talked about with the NIL boost, talent acquisition, that was the main goal in the portal this season was, hey, let's go get some quality backs. You got James Jones, you got TJ Washington to pair with Dijon Stanley. Can you retool the offensive line? Coach Sanchez and his staff went out and did that. Now, can that product come together? That's going to be a big test. And I'm not expecting New Mexico State to go into Doak Campbell Stadium, run for 250 if we do. Heck yeah. But go out there and prove that, hey, we got some big boys up front that can push around these, Power 4 ACC Florida State defensive line of linebackers. We can get some yards. If you can prove that you can do that while also passing the ball a little bit, things can happen if the offense really shows up. And of course, on the other side of the ball, like I mentioned just a second ago, can you stop a really good run game with two quality running backs? Can you stop a good passing attack with some really good receivers? So then the biggest question I have is, can you run the football and create, an offense that can do both, but also defensively, are you going to show up like you did last year?
All right, awesome. Well, MJ Newsom, new voice of the Aggies, already showing 3 weeks onto the job. He's ready for it. He's done his homework, and sound like you've been there for years. I know you had some big shoes to fill there in Las Cruces, but I think there's certainly bright things ahead. Really appreciate you coming on to the podcast today.
Josh, thanks so much, man. I had a great time, and I appreciate you.
Thanks so much to MJ Newsom for joining the podcast to help preview the New Mexico State Aggies for the 2026 season and their matchup this weekend against Florida State. Next up on the podcast, we have Sarah Rudolph's interview from the CUSA football kickoff with head coach Tony Sanchez, wide receiver TK King, and defensive lineman Henry Davis III.
What's up, Conference USA fans? Welcome into another episode of CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. We're here live from Texas Live in Arlington, Texas for the 2026 CUSA football kickoff. And joining me right now, we've got the New Mexico State Aggies in the house. Head coach Tony Sanchez right next to me, Henry Davis III, TK King. Guys, thank you so much for joining us here at a very fun event for the day. I hope you guys are having a good time.
It's great to be here. We're excited to be here again and excited to, this is kind of kick off to the season.
Yeah, absolutely. At the very least, you got some new suits out of it, I heard. Yes. Looking very, very dapper over there, gentlemen. Well, let's talk a little bit of football off the top, and then we'll ask some fun questions to end it out. But, Coach, I'm going to address you first. Going into your third season here as head coach with the Aggie program, a 4-8 season last year, 2-6 in conference play. I'm sure not exactly where you want to be, but as you mentioned right before we got on, you recognize your guys right now. You're recognizing each other because you have had not as much turnover maybe as you've had on the squad in the past. So tell me a little bit about what you are trying to capitalize on the fact that you guys are returning a lot of guys for this season.
Yeah, no, it's exciting. I mean, we went from like 124 in retention down to like 77 in the country. So we made a huge, difference. A lot of the guys returning were on defense. We got some important guys on offense. But like you mentioned, I mean, 4-8 season before the games were ended on the last play of the game. We lost on the last play, 2 walk-off field goals, 2 overtimes. So the margin that we have to make up isn't very big, right? Yeah. So I think we did a good job in the portal going out and getting some really good guys, bringing guys like TK and Henry back with a host of others. So it's been a really good spring, good summer. We're excited about, again, the guys we retained, the guys we've added, the additions we've had. And we know, I mean, we've got a fire in our belly. We know how close we were to having a good season. And I mean, when you look at that record, it's just not what you want it to be. So again, the margin isn't huge, but we've got the opportunity to make it up.
Obviously, from a coaching perspective, all of these things are great, but from a player's perspective as well, knowing who you're going to battle with is a huge deal. So you guys tell me a little bit about, your team makeup and what you guys are excited for this year.
I think the difference being that we're the same team we were in January. So being able to go through winter workouts, spring ball, and now summer ball going into fall camp has been great because we've been able to build that connection, build that brotherhood so that when we go in the season, we know who we're rocking with. We got each other's back regardless.
TK, any additions to that?
No, I think you said it right on point.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I mean, you look at the guys you have next to you. Obviously, they wouldn't be here at Media Day if they didn't have some sort of leadership ability in the locker room. So tell me a little bit about these guys you have next to you and why they're here.
Well, the great thing about both these young men right next to me, they've been here multiple years. It's not their, second year at the program. This is their third year at the program. Both these guys, they've done a tremendous job, in the classroom, done a tremendous job in the community, on the football field. And, and at the end of the day, being a leader, you got to be a good player too. You can't just be a great guy. You got to be a good player. Players look up to guys that are successful on the field, who have a great work ethic. And I thought these guys, again, both guys returning, guys that have been here, bled for the program, guys that, are looked up to on offense and defense and collectively by the entire team. So I thought it was important, to pick 2 guys that really kind of make up who we stand for.
Is there maybe one thing heading into fall camp, guys, that you are really focused on? Is it whether it be team camaraderie or maybe something specific as far as scheme goes? What are you guys looking forward to heading into fall camp?
I think a thing we really took in this summer, just in training, coming together as a team, is who's real and who's fake. So who really wants to be good, who really wants to put the work in and, learn the playbook and do what we need to do to win, and who's not. Like, just separating those people. And like you said, I think bring along who wants to be here. And that's a lot of the team, if not all the team. I think we all want to win. We all know where we've been in the past couple of seasons, and we're all ready to work.
Absolutely. Well, TK, I'm going to go to you for a second because when I saw your name on the roster, I was like, I know this name because you were a mainstay on our top 10 plays of the week when it came to football season. You absolutely have some high flying action in those feet for sure, going up there and getting the ball. What are you looking forward to this year? Do you have a personal goal going into the season at all that you're focusing on?
Yeah, I have a personal goal. I want to be 1,000-yard receiver, of course, but I think really just putting on film that I'm a complete receiver. You know, I think people look at me, oh, it's just a small guy. I want to show everybody like anything that comes with playing the receiver position, I can do. Whether it's high pointing the ball, whether it's route running, I want to showcase them.
And then Henry, you mentioned, or Coach mentioned, 4 of those games came down to really, really close. A couple field goals, few points here and there. Obviously, the wins that you guys got and the closeness of those games, that's a huge testament to the defensive side of the ball. For you guys in your locker room and your position groups, what are you trying to maybe shore up this year so that you guys can go out and win a championship in 26?
I think it's just the focus in the late games. We have the great energy, we have the great atmosphere, but just honing on the details to take us through the fourth quarters and like all those overtime games we had. So I think just the focus late game situation is something we focus on.
And Coach, on the field, anything that you're looking forward to improving this year so that you guys can make it back to this USA championship?
Yeah, our DNA, we've always been a physical football team, and we've been able to run the ball. We lacked that last year. We really struggled running the ball. It affected defense and how much they were on the field. It affected, again, we had too many interceptions last year. It really affected our passing game. So when I look at our team, we've got a really talented receiving core. Trey Hedden coming on in as quarterback. Excited about him and the guys behind him. But just the guys we brought in on the offensive line, on the backs that we retained with DeJohn Stanley and bringing in James Jones of Washington. I think we have a loaded backfield like we're used to having. So I think just the addition of the way we're able to run the football will improve our defense, will improve our passing game, help us on special teams, and help us close out those late games.
Absolutely. Well, you look at the town of Las Cruces. I have not gotten to go there yet. I'm really looking forward to getting there eventually. But New Mexico State, lots of big things going on there right now. New AD with a lot of great energy there for sure. What could you tell maybe fans out there who haven't visited or, you never know, you may be talking to a prospective student or student athlete right now about New Mexico State and why it's such a great place to be right now?
Well, first of all, the city of Las Cruces is outstanding. We have such great support. You see that with people who show up to our games. They're really into it. And then, Joe Fields coming in is bringing a ton of energy. He understood the importance of, revenue share and us having to get into the game. And we've done that for the first time since I've been there. So I'm excited about that. But just the infrastructure. If you're a young man and you're thinking about New Mexico State, we've done a really good job. When we get people on visits, they're really shocked by, the new locker room we moved into week 6 last year. So this will be the first year we've had it for the entire season. New training room facilities, meeting offices. We've redone our team theater. We got a new game field 3 years ago, new practice field, new scoreboard. At the end of the season, we're knocking down the press box, and a brand new $20 million press box goes up. So we've recognized, and we've kind of been stale for about 30 years. We've had our blips with winning, but if we're going to consistently win football games and recruit at a high level, we needed to make some investments in, and we've done that, and Joe's leading the way.
Yeah, lots of fun things going on there for sure. I'm curious from a student athlete perspective what your favorite thing about Las Cruces is, because from the outside looking in, it looks like a cool town.
I think the fans, the support that we get from the town is great. The show, it's always awesome. And when you're walking around town, just they notice us and they recognize us, and it's cool to be acknowledged around the town by the fans and our support group, because we're nothing without them. So it's awesome.
Yeah.
I agree. Anytime I'm around, just walking through like a grocery store, just getting something to eat, somebody's going to recognize, hey, you're a football player. And I think that's cool. I think that's really cool.
Well, it's awesome to be recognized locally, obviously. But one thing that I think Conference USA has done that's done a great service to our schools to be recognized nationally is these weekdays USA games that we do. I know that it's really tough on the student athlete sometimes. And you got to get up in the morning, go to class, and you have a football game later that evening. And then you got to get up and go to class the next day. But what can you guys say maybe about how cool it is to be on national television, the only game on TV that night? What has it done for your program?
Well, I think it's done a lot for Conference USA and our program. I thought it was genius to go ahead and do that. When you looked at the first year's viewerships and how it's continued to increase throughout the last couple of years, all eyes on us. We use it in recruiting. It's great too for these young men to back home, all the guys they played high school ball with, their family all over the country. All eyes were on us. So it's a good thing. We got such a great brand. I talked about all the close games we were in last year, and it's not just us, it's our conference in general. You tune into a Conference USA game, you're going to see a heck of a football game.
Yeah.
And again, when you're doing it in midweek, a lot of times you're the only show on TV. So, I think it's been really good for our program and our conference.
What about you guys?
I agree. I remember coming back, I think it was week 6 from injury. And it was a weekday game against Sam Houston. And just after the game, phone just blowing up. Everybody in the country watched.
Well, you had a great game, and I think people were happy to see you back too. So.
Yes, we were.
We were happy to have them back. And I think the weekday games is just so awesome because after the game, you're getting texts from family and friends like, oh, we saw you on national television. So that's always awesome. Being able to be the only game on, being able to watch it. I know my family can't make it every game, so they're able to watch it back home.
Yeah, very cool. Very cool. Well, turning it over to some more fun questions. I love this New Mexico question because I know that the chilies there are very popular.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just curious because I also really like the food there in New Mexico. Which is your favorite, red or green?
Green, 100%.
Okay.
I'm going neither. I'm not a chili person at all. No.
Oh, man. Gosh. Well, I'll ask you here in a second what your favorite restaurant is. I'm
Okay.
curious to hear. What about you, TK?
I like green.
Okay. I'm a green gal myself. I
You
don't,
get Christmas too. If they ask you, you can say Christmas. You get both.
whenever I visit, I've been to Santa Fe and Albuquerque a few times. Still, I've made a Las Cruces, got a bit there, but I like to do the half and half. Just I don't
There
get it
you go.
very often. So, well, okay. Let me just turn it on over then into our CUSA Eats segment, where I ask you what your favorite restaurant is on campus or in the city of Las Cruces, and what I need to get there when I come visit.
I would say Smoky Sensations.
Okay.
That's my go-to.
He's like, yeah.
So that place it's great. The oxtail there is amazing.
Ooh.
And I love their wings. That's usually what I get there.
Another, youth football players in your wings. You
Yeah.
guys love
Yeah.
wings. That's so funny. Okay. Wait, was it like oxtail stew or like what?
You can get it with rice, mac and cheese.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Sounds delicious. What about you, TK?
Me personally, I'm gonna give some collard greens with some mac and cheese and
All
some
right.
brisket with some barbecue.
Okay, so
Mm,
it's like a barbecue,
Oh, yeah.
like down home cooking, meat and three type of place. I love that. What about you, Coach?
I'm gonna say Si Senor. I'm gonna
Okay.
go to traditional stuff. They do a great job.
Yeah, absolutely. What do I need to get there if I go?
Oh man, I tell you what, I always get you usually get the oñate enchiladas.
Yeah, that
so-
sounds so yummy.
They're good.
I mean, we're here in Texas. There's a lot of Tex-Mex around here, but you got to get the authentic stuff. I feel like.
Well, last night I made sure I had a steak. You're in Texas, you got to get some dead cows.
That's true.
Good.
Some good dead cow. We'll have that here in a little bit. All right. Well, guys, let me ask this. Let's take an inside look, a little peek into the locker room. Who would you guys say is the funniest guy on the team?
I got two. I got AJ Williams and I got Lyndon. They both in the receiver room. They both
Okay. That's funny.
crazy.
I think Raylan Carter, he's a go-to. You're gonna hear him from across the field,
Love it.
and he's gonna make you laugh. So I think he's spotting off.
Okay. What about you?
What you know what's funny? When I walk in the locker room, it gets real serious.
I was about to say. That has happened a
I
lot.
say, pick up the towels, make sure it looks good.
Yeah.
But Raylan, it's funny you brought Raylan up. The guy calls me once a week, every week, the entire year, just to check on me, see how I'm doing. So,
Oh, that is awesome.
how you doing, Coach? You doing good? All right, man. Talk to you tomorrow.
That's fantastic. What position does he play?
That's a tackle.
Okay. Yep. Big boy. All right. I love that. That is so much fun. What about like somebody who needs to lighten up a little bit? Too serious.
I'm gonna say someone else in my position group, Jason Guan.
Okay.
I think we make fun of him because he's real stocky. So we tell him relax, like rest the shoulders down a little bit.
I can't think of no.
No, because the receivers group's probably always cutting up. Is that what it is? Absolutely. What about anybody on the coaching staff that's like really funny?
Yeah, Coach Yost is really funny.
Oh, yeah.
He doesn't mean to be. He's just so laissez-faire, chill.
Yes.
He's got that cool little presence still, but yeah, he's pretty fun.
I could see that. I could definitely see that. Well, guys, I've had such a fun time chatting with you today. I know that the Aggies are going to do some great things this year. Looking forward to seeing the product on the field, but it was really nice to get to sit down and talk to you guys off the field for a little bit. So, Coach Henry, TK, thank you so much for joining us, and I hope you'll have a great rest of your day and a great season.
Thank you.
It's a pleasure.
Absolutely.
Go Aggies.
Thanks so much to everyone from New Mexico State for joining the podcast to help preview the upcoming season for the Aggies. Next up on our podcast series, we're down to 2 episodes left, folks. We've got Kennesaw State and Missouri State, respectively, next Tuesday, Thursday, September 1st and 3rd. So excited for this series coming to an end, but also sad to see it go. But we're excited to get back into our kind of normally scheduled episodes as we get into the thick of football season. Again, we start this weekend with 2 Week 0 games. Jack State at North Dakota State, 4:30 p.m. Central Time on CBS Sports, and then New Mexico State at Florida State at 6 p.m. on the CW. And you can stay up to date with all of our latest episodes by following us on social media at CUSA Insider Pod on X and Instagram. You can find our video episodes on YouTube. If you go to @ConferenceUSA, you'll see a CUSA Insider playlist there. And if you're an audio listener, listen to us wherever you listen to your favorite podcasts, whether that's Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music. That'll do it for us here today. Thank you for joining another episode of CUSA Insider, the official podcast of Conference USA. I'm Josh Yonis, signing off.